Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom, the walking, talking encyclopedia. The human heart anatomy is what we are going to discuss in this particular video. My mission, the impeccable wisdom, knowing which everything is fully known. My greatest discovery, Divyank, the divine design of nature with which the perfect objects are designed and created. Divyank is the reward of 60 years of integrated education. Impeccable wisdom is enlightening, and integrated knowledge is empowering. From this angle, let's move on to understand what is heart, what are the blood vessels, what is cardiovascular system, what is its anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and how it serves the purpose so that we can understand the cardiovascular system completely. So let's try to understand the perfect human anatomy of the human heart into the perfection to the core. Now, as I told you in my one of the first videos, what's the difference between artery and the vein? Arteries carry blood from the heart to the periphery, and veins carry from periphery to the heart. And let's leave it at that. Let's not confuse it with oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood, because their confusion could come up to create certain problems which I do not want anybody to have. Let's talk of impeccable wisdom and done with it. Now, oxygen is absorbed from the atmosphere through the lungs and carried to the left atrium. From left atrium, it goes to left ventricle. From left ventricle through the aortic notch, or you can say valve, it is distributed to the rest of the body. And after going to the rest of the body, how the oxygen is absorbed by the system, and you can see the body cells right at the top, which deliver oxygen to the cells, and carbon dioxide along with oxygen is converted to carbon dioxide and water, and they come to the blood, and carbon dioxide is carried through the blood vessel to the heart, to the right atrium, through inferior and superior vena cava, and then go to the right ventricle and then to the lungs for purification and comes up. This is the whole structure. So there are four valves: left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle, right ventricle. Then you have four valves: left side mitral valve, right side tricuspid, and then you have pulmonary valve, and you also have aortic valve. From that angle, there is no doubt at all how things are actually carried. And in lungs, what kind of transmission takes place? In cells, what happens in pulmonary respiration? What is that cellular respiration has been explained very well. And I'm sure here I'm again showing the same thing, how it flows. So having got the oxygen absorbed, distributed to cells, and carbon dioxide is brought back to the heart, to the lungs, and expelled out, and this cycle goes on, goes on, goes on. This particular structure of anatomy and physiology has been made very clear. Now to come to the question of amazing anatomy of the capillaries. Now capillaries are the single cell layers where pores of 4 micron. As a result, first law of nature is movement from passive movement from higher concentration to the lower concentration is the first law of nature. So when concentration is more, from there to the other side, it flows automatically without any pressure, and that's what happens in capillaries. Single layer, 4 layers, anything up to 4 micron size can pass through. Anything more than 4 micron size cannot pass through the capillaries, is the first thing which I want everybody to understand. Second thing, gaseous diffusion. Heart initial aorta cardiac cells is one part. Now, there are three different kinds of cells. You have skeletal cells, you have smooth cells, and you have cardiac cells. The heart is made of cardiac cells, including a part of aorta. And they carry a different structure which is involuntary and controlled by vagus nerve. But amount of oxygen and ATP and other things which are produced by the cardiac cycle is almost 2.25 times more than what happens in skeletal muscles. 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbohydrate is converted to 4 millimicron meters. Whereas 1 gram of fatty acids converts to 9 kilocalories. This is 2.4 times. How does it happen? Because of beta oxidation. Now, to understand beta oxidation, I would like to bring it to your notice. Carbohydrate formula and lipid formula is same. Only the difference is CH2O formula of carbohydrate is CH2, but O is minimized to only 2. So as a result, oxygen is taken out. By adding oxygen to this, which is Agni element, fire element, more ATP is produced through beta oxidation. As a result, things become much more easier for cardiac cycles to function from the time they start functioning till you die. They continuously work, and the reason is primarily use fatty acids more ATP. Things can go on, and there is no deficiency required. And as long as you maintain the heart rate of 72 per minute throughout your life without any inhibition, without any problem, and without any problem of fatty acid, lipids, and other thing, you can live much longer than you can live with glucose alone. So, having explained that particular concept, remember that this is what heart muscles have to do. Now, heart muscles also have to contract and relax. Contraction, systolic contraction, duration is 38.1966%. Diastolic relaxation is 61.8034%. This is a perfect dynamic ratio I want everybody to remember. Arch of aorta, arteries, arterioles contain smooth muscles. Medium ATP energy from glycolysis is used for that. Whereas heart, it is lipids, primarily lipids. But as long as lipids are used, you'll have no problem of heart pain at all. But very moment there is a block and cells start using glucose for their use, that's the time lactic acid or pyruvate starts accumulating, and that is used for the problem for the heart problems, and then we go to a lot of problems. From this angle, I think this particular structure of heart, arteries and arterioles and how the circulation goes, if it is understood very clearly, you'll have no problem whatsoever in understanding the functions of an heart. 10 stages of conducting system of heart. As I told you, there are 3 organs in the body which have given 5th level of our nervous system. One is heart, another is GIT, third is uterus. So heart has got a new conducting system as a node which is placed in the right atrium close to where superior vena cava and inferior vena cava bring blood into the heart. So stimulus for as a node is the venous return pressure, not anything else. And that is something which I want everybody to understand. At the same time, there are 10 stages of the conducting system as a node, 3 arterial nodes, then you have AV node, bundle of hairs, and all the branches, and which make sure that your whole heart works in one unison and you have no problem for rest of your life, one and all. If that is understood, then you have no problem at all for rest of your life. To prove also the point that there is a particular ligation system in conducting system. Suppose there is a block before SA node. Heart could go up to 100. Then if it is at AV node, heart rate could come to 61.8. Bundle of his 38.2. Then bundle of branches, heart rate 23.6 and ventricular scale. If this particular system is understood, I can tell you, you'll know what exactly is beautifully designed in the heart. Come what may, we should survive. And from that angle, this particular picture makes sense how 10 stages of conducting system of heart play an important role to make sure that we have a controlled, conducted, integrated system to make sure that we are perfectly wealthy, wise and happy. And from that angle, I think we can move on to the next stage, how function we can understand of the perfect human anatomy. Now, what I spoke about conducting system as well diastolic system. Now let's understand the same thing with a perfect human cardiac cycle. Electrical and mechanical events during each heartbeat is called cardiac cycle. Electrical potential precedes the mechanical contraction is the second fact which I want everybody to remember. And average duration per heartbeat is 0. 0.8 seconds. That means 60 seconds divided by 75 beats is 0.8. So let us say each heart rate lasts for 0.8 seconds. Then we have four heart chambers, I have told you before, upper atria 2, lower ventricles 2. Two phases, systolic, which is contraction, and diastolic, which is relaxation. Now let's understand this, how exactly it works in the heart. The design of human heart atrium resembles like a reservoir, so it functions more like earth element. That means atrial diastole, relaxation of the muscles, duration is 0.7 seconds, which fills the atrial chambers, zero point 0.7 out of zero point 0.8. Atrial systole lasts for 0.1 second and during which atrium is forcibly emptied. So, design of human heart atrium is like a reservoir 1 into 7. Hope that is understood very clearly. The ratio of contraction and relaxation in the ratio of 0.1 second and zero point 0.7 as a relaxation. I think that is understood very clear as far as atrium is concerned. But when blood comes to ventricles in the human heart, the system changes. It's no more the same what you see in atrium. What happens? Ventricle systole, contraction of muscle lasts for zero point 0.3 out of 0.8 seconds. Systole is 0.3 of 8 and diastole is 0.5. I'm sure you understand this is how it is designed. So ventricle systole lasts for 0. 0.3 seconds. Ventricle diastole lasts for 0. 0.5 seconds, which is 61.8034%. And this ratio is maintained in the ventricles very clearly, and that is what is called Divyank ratio. And because of Divyank ratio, the whole thing has been designed so beautifully that your heart will never make any problem as long as you are perfectly healthy, heart-wise, otherwise. So from this angle, we can very clearly say cardiac cycle is the contraction of the heart per beat, 72.8 seconds is the duration. Ventricle systole is 0.3, ventricle diastole is 0.5, atrial systole is 0.1, atrial diastole is 0.7. This is something which I want everybody to remember. This is the beauty of Divyank and Divyank ratio, Divyank sequence. Now, I think having explained, now before I go to this particular slide, let me tell you a little more things about heart's functions with respect to the diastolic and systolic blood pressure. Systolic blood pressure is the highest blood pressure when ventricles are pushing blood to the system. The highest perfect one, I would take it as 120 millimeters of mercury, is the perfect ideal systolic blood pressure. If you can maintain throughout your life, you are the healthiest of all the people. And diastolic is the one which could be 74 millimeter of mercury when heart relaxes. Now at the same time, I'll also like to add and show that ventricular systole is the one when ventricles are pushing it. At the end of systole, what remains is the blood which we should understand. Say, end diastolic blood pressure. When diastole has completely taken place is 120 ml, out of which 74 is pushed out and remaining 48 is kept back in the heart for the next structure to go on. If that structure is maintained, that is also in Divyank ratio, is done. Now, systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure, the difference is called pulse pressure. And 172 minus 74 could be 46, and that is pulse pressure. Mean arterial blood pressure should be ideal in this particular as a 93 millimeter. That means 74 plus 19. And most of the time when we are taught in school or colleges, how do you calculate mean arterial blood pressure is diastolic blood pressure for 1/3 of the pulse pressure. But instead of that, according to Akhand Vidyashram, and my source is this, it should be diastolic blood pressure plus 38.1966% of the pulse pressure should be added. That means 74 plus 19 is 93, and that should be the objective with which kept. So mean arterial blood pressure should be 93, and that's what everybody should keep it in mind. If you can maintain that, you are perfectly healthy throughout your body and you'll have no problem whatsoever. So that is systolic blood pressure, that is diastolic blood pressure, there is a pulse pressure, there is mean arterial blood pressure, there is a atrial systole, there is atrial diastole, there is ventricular systole, ventricular diastole. Everything centers around primarily Divyank sequence, Divyank ratio, Divyank concept. Having understood that, you will have no problem as long as you can maintain those timings completely at effort without any problem. I have also been showing this particular slide over and over again to emphasize that old cardiovascular pulmonary resuscitation CPR was mouth-to-mouth respiration or life of kiss. And the question which I have raised even as a school student 50 odd years back, it doesn't work because blood is not in circulation. How can you give oxygen to a child where the blood itself is not circulating? It has to be circulating first. That is also one of the reasons why I've been of the opinion from my college days itself. Unless until venous blood is brought back to the heart and pumped throughout, things would not improve. So, since mouth to mouth breathing our kiss of life does not work, the perfect thing would be lift the legs higher concentration, let the blood flow into the heart as much as possible, and increase the venous return pressure to the heart in the right atrium. As a result, this fifth level of nervous system, which is responsible for heart functions independent of systolic or diastolic or nervous system, and that's the reason when you take a heart out, put in the sun, it can still function as long as it is having a good atrial surrounding of systolic sodium and glucose concentration very clear. I think that's the reason they are able to carry the heart from one person to other person before it is operated without any physical body connection. So from that angle, bringing blood back to the heart by raising would be the ideal situation to revive heart much faster in case of a cardiac arrest. I want that to be known again and again for everyone in the world. If you find somebody falling down, immediately raise the hand, legs, let the blood come. That should be the first thing. If by itself it's open, wonderful. If it doesn't, start pressing the heart, start contracting the muscles, and start pumping it such a way that you can start the contraction of the heart by pressurizing, at the same time bringing blood back to the heart. If that also fails, you can always try atrial systoles and produce defibrillation and start making the heart start functioning again effectively. So, for heart, it is a mechanical, it is a chemical, it is electrical, and it's also psychological. From that angle, this particular presentation makes a lot of sense for everyone because this particular design is not for medical professional alone. Anyone who's wherever it is, if you see a cardiac arrest, person falling down, do lift the legs, raise the blood, try to contract the heart, and try to give your first station immediately so the person is able to get life immediately and there will not be problem thereafter. If that is understood, I think we have understood the prime function of perfect human anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, psychology, and otherwise. As a result, people can survive much better, much longer thereafter. Having explained that, now let's go on to how atrial system is supported and the ventricular system is supported by Tantra Vidya, chakras, nadis and other ways. This picture is again Anhata is a heart. If that is perfectly heart center, there is no problem. Your heart will start functioning as optimally as possible throughout your life without any problem as long as you maintain your hydration of 61%, you maintain solid content, you try to keep everything within the normal 24/7, and you keep your blood cholesterol, triglyceride, all the parameters as good when you are 21, when you're perfect according to Divyank ratio, your content of carbohydrate, proteins, fats, lipid is according to Divyank ratio, you will have no problem whatsoever and you are physically active, mentally active, and trying to bring everything into perfect concentration. I can assure you, your heart would survive 100 plus as long as you are leading a perfectly healthy life otherwise. From that angle, let me put it, this particular video has been only to explain how beautiful is heart atriums, ratio of 1 into 7, ventricles of 0.3 and 0.5 Divyank ratio, and how the concentration goes, how the contemplation takes place, why heart does not stop. It continuously beats from the time it starts functioning at the month of 2 or 3 to till the day, moment you die. As long as there is no problem at all, you can survive 100% without any problem and maintain the healthy condition once for all. From that angle, this particular presentation has a lot of meaning so that we can lead a perfectly healthy life. That's why Pranamaya Kosha plays an important role, and this particular patient has an important role in keeping you perfectly healthy for 100 years plus without any problem whatsoever. Anyway, it was nice talking to you about perfect human anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and psychology, about pressures, differences, energy level, concentration, continuity, and 10 stages of fifth level of nervous system, which is specialized in heart, GIT, and uterus, speaks volume that I want everybody to be enlightened. As a medical person doing this detailed thing for everyone, and that is so that they understand things easily, effectively for rest of their life. So from that angle, it's been pleasure sharing all the knowledge which I have gained in the last 60 years for the benefit of everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.